Okay, so it's closing in. It's almost midnight, and part of this video is my life coach challenging me without even challenging me, and this is going off as Facebook Live for two reasons. I kind of got inspired. I want to show people what it's like when everyone seems to be asleep, and what it's kind of like for me when I'm getting ready for an author presentation or a speaking event. My coach, the amazing R.M. Dozier, asked me today. He said, I want you to give me a video. Show me you rehearsing your speeches. And I thought, today was absolutely crazy. And from the moment I got up to the time I had to go to work this evening, it's just been one thing after another. Go here, taking care of this, daily grind. Got paid today, running errands, paying bills. And I literally had to text him. And I said, man, I'm not going to get the video to you today. And see, the thing is, we've got this video call coming up tomorrow, this conference. And he was really wanting to have a little bit of seeing what I do to be able to focus on this call. And after I got done texting him, I said, you know what? I said, do I want this or not? And I said, yes, I do. I wrote him back and I said, you know what? When I get home, I'm going to get my column written, because I didn't even have time to do that today because I was so busy. I sat down, I got that down. I said, you know what? When I get done, I'm going to get you that video. Here we are. Because I want it that bad. And one of the things that I always do is, when I go in between times, maybe I go for a few weeks or maybe even a month where I don't have an author presentation, I've got my outline that I do, that I go off of. But eventually it does get to where you get a little nervous again. I get a little nervous all the time. And the thing is, though, we're going to do this, and I'm going to just go through it here with you. And feel free to comment. And RM, looking forward to the call tomorrow. Now, obviously, this presentation is going to be a little cut and miss here and there, because obviously when I'm doing these rehearsals with myself, I don't have audience feedback. I don't have the students right here in front of me raising their hands. What may only seem like 5 or 10 minutes worth of rehearsing is actually a lot longer when I add in all of the students and all of the the questions and answers that we have and all that great time. But I'm going to kind of get into it right here, right now. And one thing that I like to do is when I come up to the students, the first thing I come up to them and I say, how many of you know my name? And it's always at this point in time where you will actually get a lot of students who don't know my name. So when I come up and I say, how many of you knew that I was coming? And they all raise their hands because they knew the author was coming. So then I say, well, I'd like to let you know that my name is Levi B. Fox. And I'm a children's author from Bridgeport, Illinois. And I am absolutely excited to be here with you today. I couldn't wait to get here, and I hope that you are as excited. Can you tell me who is excited that we're all here today to have this fun time together? And it's usually at this point where I get a lot of kids that are excited, because I get into it. I get excited. I mean, if I came up and I said, my name's Levi Fox, I'm happy to be here, how many kids are really going to get excited as if I say, who knows my name? And the ones who don't, and I say, well, my name's Levi B. Fox, and I am happy and excited to be here with you today. And then I say, how many of you know what I do? And it's at this point where most of the children in all the presentations I've given, they know that I'm an author, but there's still some that don't. And I say, for those of you who don't know, does anybody want to take a guess at maybe what I do and why I'm here today? And as soon as I say why I'm here today, the kids say, oh, you're the author, you write books. And then that's when I say, yes. I said, I'm an author. I said, now what does an author do? And it's at this point that the children will say they write books. And I say, well, what kind of books do you think authors like to write? What kind of books do you think that creative and exciting artists, authors love? And it's at this point in the presentation where I get kids that they'll give me all kinds of things, storybooks, picture books. They'll tell me the textbooks. And I really, honestly, every presentation, I always get students who will tell me something amazing, like they'll say literary fiction or biographical nonfiction. And I mean, my mind is blown, and I will say, you are giving me an amazing answer. I love it. And when I give that kind of reinforcement to students, their eyes light up. They're excited. They're creative. And I go in and I'll say, how old are you guys? What is the average age of most of you students here? And it's at this time, depending on what I got. If I've got a classroom, I know, okay, I've got third graders, so they're around 8, 9 years old. If I've got the entire school, let's say from pre-K all the way to 5th grade, then I've got from probably 4 years old up to 11 years old. But the one thing that I love about asking kids how old they are, children love to tell you how big they're getting. They feel confident by telling me, I'm 8, I'm 10, I'm 5. And some kids, they even want to show you because they want to be motion activated with you. They want to say they're 5 or they're 6. And I love that interaction with them. And then I say, well, did you guys know that I've actually been writing longer than any of you have been alive? Yeah. I've been writing for 13, almost 14 years now. And it's at this point when I say this, kids' eyes light up because the concept of time blows their mind. When they think of their life, and I mean, it is funny because even a 6-year-old, to be alive for 6 years seems like a long time. But when I tell them that I've been writing longer, twice as long than they've been alive, their minds literally, and I love that because I've got them thinking. I've got that creativity started going because they're creating the concept of, wow, 13 years, 14 years. So then when we get into the subject, I love to always ask, because when I get them in this creative state, when I've got their mind blown, I then ask them, I am in this kind of state, and I don't use that term, I say, I do this for a living. How many of you think it would be absolutely awesome to do this for a living? How many of you think being an author and creating things, dragons, talking clouds, trolls and lizards and wizards, and how many think that would be cool? And I say it just like this. Because when you talk in an excited state, when you're making motions in an excited state, I get the kids excited. And almost 85 to 95% of the students, they will raise their hand because they are excited about things that get them excited. Whether it's pre-K, 5th grade, even some of the junior high kids that I've given this same presentation to, they get hooked because kids are hooked on excitement. Now, how many of you like to read? I mean, really read. How many of you think that it's absolutely awesome to read a good book? Whether it's just a couple pages or maybe it's a story that you have read to you at night by your mom and your dad. How many of you think that's awesome? And see, what I'm doing is I'm taking this creativity and I'm connecting it to something that takes effort. Reading takes effort. And I'm connecting that link. I'm neurologically linking fun, creative, exciting to reading. And when I do that, I get kids that love to tell me, Oh, I love to do this. Oh, I've got this book at home. I'm reading Goosebumps. Oh my gosh, my older sister reads Harry Potter. Oh my gosh, I love it. And while I can't read it yet because it's about this thick, I love hearing the story. And I get them excited about that. And then I ask the students, I ask them about one thing. Hang on just a second. Let's see. Well, okay. I got my bag put up right now. But I wanted to show this for this, but we're going ahead with it. What I have is I carry a separate bag with me. And it has all 9 of my books together. And it's a stack. When all my books printed out are together, I have a stack of papers that are this thick. I have over 1,200 pages written through my 9 stories. And what I do is I always come up to the kids and I say, so you guys like to read. If you like to read, do you like surprises? And it's at this point where the kids, they're excited, their mind is just going crazy. And now I'm ready to give them a surprise. And I say, but you got to read. Would you read the surprise that I'm about to give you? Now, I haven't showed you yet, but let me tell you, it's a book that you've got to read. And are you excited to even try to read it? And almost 95% of the kids, every time they have their hands up in the air, they're ready to go. They want to see it. Then I reach in my bag and I pull out this stack. I pull out this stack of books that are this high because I show them what hard work can get you. And I show this and I hold it up there and I say, how many of you would like to read this? How many of you think this is cool? And I still have 50% of the kids with their hands in the air, ready to tackle it, even if they're first graders. Because I've got them in a state where they're excited. And I've got it linked to reading. Now I've got it linked to reading this manuscript. And then I say, well, let me ask you guys. I open up this page here, and this is what the page looks like. And what my page is just a printout, like it would be off your home printer. It's black, it's white, it has no pictures. And I say, how many would still like to read this? 50% of almost every presentation are still linked to the desire that they're going to feel great reading it. Just from the presentation that we've had so far. And then I hold the book up. I hold it all up and I say, okay, now let's play a guessing game. I said, I want to ask you, how many of you think you know how many pages this is? And I get them thinking. Because when I make it a game, who doesn't love games? Who doesn't like to say, hey, the author came, he had a guessing game, and I got to win it. I got it right. And I get everything from, you get the little kids, you know, they're saying 15 pages. And some of the older kids will laugh, and I say, man, that's a great answer. But it's a little more than that. And then the older kids will say, gosh, you know, it's 100 pages. And I'll say, man, that's a great answer. But I said, keep going, you're getting there. And then eventually they'll get up to 500 pages. And I'll say, oh, man, you're getting there. But keep going. And by this time, when I get up to about 500, 600, 700 pages, the kids start saying, whoa. And then finally, I always get a student. Usually it's someone who's shy, that's a little reserved, and they'll say, 1,000? And I'll say, oh my gosh, you are this close. And within a couple minutes, no more than a couple, I get them and they say, I get them to 1,200. And when I get them to 1,200, I go, Yes. Congratulations. You are the winner. But everyone, amazing guesses. It takes a lot of effort and a lot of thinking and a lot of courage to be able to stand here in front of everybody in this class, in this school, and give a good answer. So thank you to everybody for the awesome answers. And now that I've got them peaked, I've showed them my work, and they're excited and they're ready to go, then I get into the book that I've brought to the elementary schools. It's my book entitled Barney and Lexi Lost in Lawrenceville. And it entails a book about a dog and a cat who are owned by the same owners, who could be night and day, not the greatest of pals. They kind of just learn to get along, and they become lost in the sleepy town of Lawrenceville, and they develop this amazing friendship as they try to find their way home. But being that it's about dogs and cats, I look at my audience and I say, okay, show of hands. How many here like dogs? And I always get about 50% because a lot of kids aren't really dog kids, and it's usually the other way. And I say, what's one thing that you guys really like about dogs? Yeah, I mean, they're big and they bark and they've got a tail that wags, and some of them are cute and they kind of yip yip. And when I make these little noises and stuff, the kids laugh. And what I'm doing is, as I'm making these kids laugh, I'm taking that creativity, that excitement over reading, and I'm linking it to other things. When I give my elementary presentations, I always am linking. The initial thing I'm giving them is excitement, creativity, ingenuity, and an imagination. And I'm linking that through my whole presentation to other things. Because that's what happiness is all about, is linking positive things together in everyday life. And I'm linking this to dogs. And when I start asking them why, kids love to tell me stories then. I get them pulled in. And they start saying that I love dogs because it's fun to give them a bath, or I got this dog that loves to get into trash and it's so funny. And they tell me amazing stories. And then I say, how many of you guys love cats? And tell me why you love cats. And I'll get a bunch of kids. Kids always tell me, I love cats because you don't have to take them out to do their business. And then always kids say, oh, yuck, but you got to clean up their poop afterwards. That's disgusting. And it's always funny because, you know, when the kids say words like poop in the litter box, kids laugh and they giggle. Giggles, I think, are an amazing thing at the elementary level. It means that kids are opening up. It means that they're interacting. And part of my presentations is about getting our interaction together. So then what I do is I have stuffed animals, which are of Barney and Lexi. I have a little stuffed animal that looks like a beagle, and I have a stuffed animal that looks like a black and white tabby cat. And I ask the students, I say, okay, some of you like dogs, some of you like cats. Now, some of you don't like either, but I brought two friends with me that I want to introduce you to them. And I think all of you are going to like them. Would you like to see them? Would you like to meet them? And a lot of times I get the kids and they're, yeah! So what I do is I reach in my bag and I pull out Barney, because Barney's name's first. And I poke his head out of my bag. And right then, kids just start giggling. Girls are looking and going, aw, and I pull him out. And I put him in my hand and I say, ladies and gentlemen, this is Barney. Now, can you tell me, what kind of dog is Barney? And again, I'm getting kids' interaction. And kids are going, it is a collie, or it's a Saint Bernard. And then if they don't get it, if they don't know beagle, I say, it starts with a B. And when I usually do that, there's always a student in the class who maybe dad or grandpa go hunting and they just know, oh, it's a beagle. And when they get a right answer, I always go, yes, you guys are so smart. Yes, it's a beagle. And I say, but you know what? Barney is not the brightest beagle in the world, but I have someone with me who is. Would you like to meet her? And I reach in my bag and I pull out Lexi, and I pull out Lexi real slowly as if she's shy. And all the girls always see Lexi and they all go, "Oh, so cute." And I love that because the guys are really drawn to the dog and the girls really seem to be drawn to the cat. And I hold Lexi up, and Lexi's got this long tail. So as Lexi's doing this, Lexi's in my hand, I'll sit there and I'll flip her tail back and forth. Just like she's alive. Because at this point in my presentation, the kids are into it. And they love what I'm doing. And I'll say, this is Barney and Lexi. And did you know that even though Barney and Lexi in the book are made-up characters, they're based on real life pets that my grandparents once had. When I was about your guys' age, I always spent the time with my grandma and grandpa's. I slept over, spent the night at their house, and we always had Barney in the backyard in his pen, and I always woke up to hearing Barney bark, and he'd go, "Arr, arr." And then Lexi, one of the smartest cats in the world, was always inside. And then I start in, I go, but there's something different about Barney and Lexi, just like in the story. You see, Barney's not the brightest dog in the world. Barney's kind of clumsy. Do you guys know what clumsy means? And at this time, a lot of kids don't know, and I say, Barney's kind of goofy. Do you know what goofy is? And the kids, yeah. And then I say, well, Barney's not too bright. He's kind of goofy. And I said, Barney's the kind of dog that when he's chasing a rabbit, he'll forget what he's doing. That's kind of goofy, isn't it? But Lexi is absolutely smart. And there's something that Lexi likes to do. Would you like to know what she likes to do? And at this time, the kids are always saying, yes, yes. And I say, Lexi loved to watch television. Not just any television. Lexi loved to watch cooking shows. And when I talk about a goofy dog and a television watching cat, kids explode with creativity. It's insane to watch these kids start developing it in their minds. And what I do is I watch them. You can tell in their mind, they're thinking. They're thinking about making their own stories. And I've actually got my room lined on one wall with stories that kids have written and sent me. And I mean, man, that's worth its weight in gold. But I go back and I say, now I want to tell you, in my book, Barney and Lexi, Lost in Lawrenceville, what do you think happens to Barney and Lexi? And some student will be just, smart and on point. They'll say, Barney and Lexi get lost in Lawrenceville. And I'll say, that's an amazing answer. Gosh, you are smart. This is a smart group. You guys are really smart. Yes, Barney and Lexi become lost in Lawrenceville. Barney is a beagle that lives in the backyard in an old rusted pen, just as happy as can be. Lexi is a very, very pampered house cat. How many of you know what pampered means? And a lot of kids don't know the word pampered. And I say, okay, how about spoiled? Has your mom and dad ever said that maybe grandma or grandpa spoil you? Yeah, Yeah, my mom says that all the time is what they say. I love it. And I'll say, well, Lexi's very spoiled. She lives inside where it's real comfortable. And I say, but one day, Lexi goes outside when Barney's let out of his pen on a chain. And while the two are in their backyard together, Barney sees a squirrel and his ears go up. Do you know what it means when a dog just suddenly perks its ears? And I always get a boy or a girl say, yeah, that means they're really focused on something. They see something. And I said, well, Barney sees a squirrel. And Barney's never seen this squirrel before. Barney jumps at it, but Barney's on his chain. Now, Lexi felt kind of sorry for Barney being on the chain, and she goes over to pat him on the back. And she's telling Barney, it's okay. You won't always be on that chain. But then Barney decides he wants to jerk at that chain one more time. And when he jerks at that chain, he makes a big jerk, and that chain breaks. And it just so happens at that time, Lexi gets one of her claws caught in Barney's collar. And Barney races up the alley, chasing the gray squirrel, and he's dragging poor Lexi. And all this while, you hear this dog going, arr, arr, and you hear this cat going, meow. And it's right here, again with the sounds. At the elementary level, these kids they're getting visual, they're getting audio, but they're also getting these special audio sounds that are making them more, it's drawing them in. And I say, so then what happens, as I said, Barney and Lexi are chasing this squirrel, and they come across this highway running right through town, and there's cars going left, and there's cars going right, and Barney races across the highway with Lexi. But once they get across the highway, Barney forgets where he's going. And because Lexi was caught in his collar and fearing for her life, she didn't have a chance to look and see where she was going. And it's at that moment, after they lost the squirrel, Barney and Lexi realize that they're lost in Lawrenceville. And it's right here that I have these kids in an amazing state. I've even at this point, I always watch my quiet kids. I was shy once when I was in school, and I always take a special note. You always know the kids who are eager, but I always watch the kids who are shy. And when I really lead them in and I say they got lost in Lawrenceville, they're watching me. At this point, they don't care what their peers think. They're listening, they're watching, they're observing. They're drawn in. That's a sign that my presentation is doing what it's supposed to. And I always leave them at this cliffhanger because I've watched other authors do presentations, and the authors have always said, you've got to leave people, if you've got a book, you've got to leave them up here wanting that book. Because I always get kids saying, well, how did they get uptown? How did they get away from the city workers who are trying to capture them and take them to the pound? How do they get home? I've left them in an amazing state. They want to read. And it's not about just making the money, just selling the book. It's about that child taking that book home and reading. Putting the laptop down, putting the iPod down, the iPad, putting the PlayStation 4 down, and reading. And I've done it with just simple movements. Now, obviously, when I do classrooms, I'm back and forth because I'm getting all of my kids here. I'm getting my kids here. I'm looking in the back. If it's an entire school, I'm going to every age group that I can. When I do my presentation and I'm interacting, I don't just single out the 5th graders because they're the oldest, or the pre-K kids because they're the littlest. I'm getting everybody, and I pick kids to answer me that I feel don't get a chance to answer me a lot. Because I remember going to presentations and being shy. I always said, oh, I'm scared, but please pick me. I always wanted to be picked even though I was shy. And I want all of the kids, see, because I think the eager kids are going to be eager no matter what. They're excited. They're pumped. My job is to bring the other kids, the shy ones, the ones that are more reserved, more reclusive, into this. That's why when they answer me and they give me an answer, I say, gosh, that's an amazing answer. Because not only am I there as an author, I'm there to motivate them, to inspire them to get creative and get confident in themselves. And then I come to this point where after I get done talking about the book, I say, how many of you guys would love, how many of you think that it would be an adventure if you got lost in, and I say whatever town you're in, let's say Chicago. How many of you think it would be an adventure if you got lost in Chicago? And I get a few kids that are so excited that they're raising their hand because they think it's an adventure. But then I say, how many of you think it would be an adventure to get lost with your best friend? And it's right here. When I say an adventure best friend, 95% of the kids, they raise their hand. Because in their minds, I can tell, they're thinking of what kind of an adventure they would have. They're not thinking about tomorrow. They're not thinking about yesterday. They're not thinking about lunch. They're thinking about the story that they're creating in their head. And then I've got to hook them. I've got to twist it because we get a laugh out of this. And I say, okay, now if all of you still have your hands up, keep them up until I ask this question. And only lower them if you don't like what I ask. How many of you would like to get lost in Chicago with your brother or sister? Right then, over 55 to 60% of the hands go down. And there's kids that go, not me. And we laugh. We have a good laugh, and kids start laughing. Oh no, I would rather get lost with my friend over my brother. Or, oh my gosh, my older sister's a pain. She's so naggy. You know, and they start laughing. And it's even the teachers. I got the grown-up teachers laughing and finding things funny. And then what I do, if we have time, I will sit down and I'll usually read a couple pages. Some classroom time, like this Friday that I'm going to Flora, Illinois, I've only got 45 minutes. So basically, you know, the presentation is going to be pretty well it's going to be cut down. Most of my presentations are usually an hour, just a little over. So right now, as that, I have to make the decision, okay, obviously I'm not going to be able to read 8 or 9 pages plus give my presentation, but that just means I'm going to go all in more on that presentation. And what I love about my presentations is after I sit here, I tell everybody, I say, I would like to say how happy that I am that you guys had me here today. How happy that I am that I got to meet all of you. Thank you very much for taking your time to have me here today. And I always tell them that because I want these kids to know, yes, they may not understand that, yes, the school had me there, but they are the school. They are taking their time, which is precious, to allow me in. And that's what I love about this. It's what I love about it. And heck, you know, it's midnight now, and I'm excited as can be. I'd go do it right now if I could. What I love about my presentations is it's my chance to inspire. It's my chance to just take kids that maybe don't have encouragement at home. Because when they go home, I don't know what they go home to. I don't know. They might be at risk. They might be an only child. They might feel lonely. But when they're with me, we're going to have a great time. We're going to be inspired. And I light them up with excitement. And that's just a little bit of what I do. And obviously, I'm going to do another video, RM. You've got me inspired. I'm going to do another one probably within the week after I get my other presentations out of the way. And I'm going to go through my hour-and-a-half long motivational speech. And I'm going to do a Facebook Live, and I'll have it on YouTube. So I got this done. I could have said, oh man, I got to go to bed. I know my life coach would not have that. I want this. It's 12:15 at night. Got the column wrote. I got this video done. Success. That's what it's all about. So take care. Have a great night.